Welcome back, you guys. I'm Tassie. This is Shaman Memoirs. And today, as you guys can see, totally new setup. I am finally branching out and inviting guests onto my episodes. And for our very first episode, we have my younger sister, GJ, here. GJ is going to be here to join me for my first podcast, really just to talk about some ghostly experiences and really introduce her background as well as Naru. And GJ is not a practicing shaman whatsoever, but having been one of my sisters, experiencing a lot of my ghostly experiences too, being in many of my stories, So I really wanted to bring somebody on for you guys so you guys can hear more about Naru, and of course, whenever I talk about my sister in Japan and my ghostly experiences, that was her. So thank you so much, GJ, for coming on to this episode. I'm so happy that you're here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Definitely I don't see things, but I was super haunted in Okinawa.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about your story. And for these episodes, I do want to have other shamans come on as well, even people related to shamans, if they are married to a shaman, really to hear their stories and experiences and how to bring that to all of you guys so you guys can also understand everyone else's struggles too, so that we are not all crazy and that we're not alone in all of our different ways of struggling. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much. And again, thank you to GJ. Thank you to all of you guys for all your patience with me. This is one of my New Year resolutions to really get more back into filming and providing more great content for you guys. But if you guys know somebody who would be great to be on my podcast, or you guys have amazing stories you would like to share, make sure you check out the description box below, so that way you guys know where you guys can reach out to us. So speaking of Naru, I met him when he was already 3 years old.
Yeah, he was older.
Yes, he was already older, and he is this white fluff of love, okay? He really, really tries to act like he's a protector, like a warrior.
No, yeah.
But he's really just not it.
He has a complex where he's like, oh, I'm hard. But really, in the inside, he's like, I'm dainty.
And he has no awareness of his body size whatsoever. He will walk right over your foot. He will sit on it. He will knock you out of the way.
I swear he does that on purpose.
Yeah. And the funniest story recently was the other day we were at my sister's other house. And it's a fourplex, okay? It is a fourplex. GJ lives on the other side. My other sister lives on the other side. And everyone was hanging out in one of the units. So Naru was alone at home. And I had a phone call, so I went over to her unit to take the phone call. And then as I was leaving, he knows I'm headed towards the door, and he's trying to escape, okay? And
he has FOMO. He has to be a part of the group.
Naru is a big dog. He's 90 pounds?
No, he's 82.
Oh, okay.
But he's considered overweight.
Yeah.
He's not that big compared to a real German Shepherd.
So literally, I'm trying to sneak out the door, okay? I'm trying to get my legs and my body through, and he's going for it. He's I'm gonna make it through. And he's really trying, and I'm holding on to his collar, and I'm screaming, Naru, no!
Yeah, we heard you on the other side, and we heard you struggling. We're like, what is she doing over there?
Oh my God. And then I was on the phone with my boyfriend, and all he could hear as I said, okay, bye, babe. And then all he hears me screaming, Naru, no, Naru. And he's asking me over and over, what's wrong? And I can't even answer him because I'm trying to fight for my life holding Naru. He was really, really trying. Eventually, I was able to close the door on him. But, you feel so bad for him because he just wants to be part of us all the time.
Yeah.
Because he feels like he needs to protect us. And he also does this really weird thing where he will walk around the room re-sniffing everybody just to make sure a new person has not come into the group. Have you ever experienced him sniffing somebody that wasn't part of the group?
So this one time I went over to my friend's house and everyone was already there, right? And then it's funny because he took a shit in the house. I'm like, God damn it! But anyway, we were all there and everyone is in the group already. However, one of my friend, her boyfriend, came later, sat down, and he looked at him, sniffed him, and he was being all friendly to Naru, but Naru was like, you're the last person to come in here. Like, he kind of looked at him like he wasn't part of the pact, and he barked at him.
Oh.
So he kind of got a little aggressive, and I'm like, okay, calm down, Naru, calm down.
Yeah, Naru, he's always just trying to protect us.
Yeah.
But tell me about the story about, like, how did you get him? Like,
so what happened was we lived in this duplex, me and my ex, and then our house got broken into. They busted through the door, they took, like, our stuff, and I came home, and it was just me and him at the time. And I got really scared, and I called my ex, but he was busy working, so he couldn't make it to come out, and so I had my friend come check it out and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Ever since that incident, that's when we said, okay, maybe we should get a dog. So we already had the mindset already, we need a dog for protection. And I feel like that kind of set the tone for Naru. It's like we already put it into the universe by saying that. So I was like, for some reason, I was just really wanted a white dog, and I was thinking about wanting like a Shiba Inu, because, you know, you see that on the internet. Yeah. And the meme too, right? But those are so expensive. Like, the ones I saw, they're like $8,000. I'm like, okay, I'm not made out of money. I can't afford that, you know? So I was like kind of looking to see what other white dogs I can kind of get, like Samoyeds and stuff, and Great Pyrenees, but no, thank God I didn't go with those, because then it's still like those kind of dogs are expensive, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought of the movie Bolt. He's a white German Shepherd. The Pixar Disney movie Bolt.
And white German Shepherds are pretty rare too. They're not common.
They're not common, yeah. And I believe, like, when I watched that, I'm like, oh, I can get a white German Shepherd. So I kind of looked on Craigslist, and I'm like, white German Shepherd. And at the time, we lived in 29 Palms, and they had like a group of litter in Palm Springs, which is an hour away. Talk to the person. I'm like, okay, let's head out there. So we drove out there, and it was really pretty, because then the person who had the litters of puppies, they lived on a pretty farm. Like, those pigs, chickens, it was really cute. And so when we went there, I saw a regular German Shepherd. She also had a litter, but she didn't like me. The mom, the regular German Shepherd, she didn't like me. As soon as I got there, she was barking at me the entire time. But Naru's mom, though, she loved me. She was like right next to me, leaning against me. She's like, choose my puppies, you know? And I was like, oh, it's like giving me permission that I can grab one of her puppies. And I knew I wanted a boy. I don't know why, but I'm like, I want a boy. So then I saw the puppies and stuff, and it took me forever to choose one. I'm like, it took me 45 minutes. I was debating between two. I think there was only like 2 or 3. There was only 2. Because then, like, the family, they had to rally all the puppies because they, like, ventured off in the farm. So they found all the puppies, brought them in, and then they told me, oh yeah, these are the 2 male dogs that you can choose. And I'm like, okay. I'm looking at them. There was one that had, because with German Shepherds, yes, they have pointed ears. However, when they are puppies, their ears are floppy. Until they get older, then they'll perk up, right? So there were 2 of them. There was one bigger one and one smaller one. The bigger one had his ears down, and then the smaller one, like the runt, he had his ears up already. And I was just sitting there watching, and then the more bigger one was more active and kind of like playing a little bit. And then the one with the ears up was the smaller one. He was just laying down, chilling and everything. And then the older one was messing with him, like, you know, like doing puppy stuff. And then the smaller one was just kind of taking it. And then eventually he got tired of it. And he snapped back. And then that's when I decided, that's the one I want. So then I got him. And then when choosing a name, me and my ex, it was an hour drive. We put him in the car. He sat on my lap, and I was in the passenger seat. And we were just, like, choosing names. And, like, my ex just kind of said a bunch of names. Like, oh, what about, like, Shido, which is white in Japanese. And then we were thinking ghost and stuff like that. And then we were just kind of running through names, and I'm like, no. And I wanted to choose a name, but at the time, Naru was sleeping on my lap, right? And then we were just running through names, and then my ex said, what about Naru? Because he said Naru once already. I'm like, I don't want to be... I know I'm like a weeb, but not that weeby, okay? I like watching Naruto, but, like, no.
Okay, that was my first thought, was that he was Naruto. Like, that's where you got Naru from. Because I had never heard of the name Naru.
Yeah. And plus, I didn't want to give a human name to a dog.
Oh,
Like, I don't want to name him Jonathan.
Jeff or something.
Jonathan, come here.
That would have been hilarious.
It would have been.
Mark, come here.
Yeah. So, and plus I didn't want to do, like, basic names that people have, like Loki, or, you know, those things that you normally hear. So when he said Naru a second time, that's when he woke up. And that's I took it as he chose his own name. I'm like, he chose his name. He's going to be called Naru. Because then he responded immediately. And usually with dogs, like, when you're trying to choose a name, it's whatever name that they respond to, you know, like,
they say that means their name.
Exactly, yeah. Like, because then they're going to respond to it. And immediately he responded to Naru. So it was funny because... Do you want to stop until it's done?
No, we can keep going. It's okay.
Okay. So it was funny because as soon as we got back to the house, because it was our drive, I didn't think to let him go potty. I brought him right into the house and he peed immediately. And I'm like, think about it. He has a little bladder because he's a tiny puppy.
Of course.
Yeah, and so he just peed immediately. I'm like, okay, like, you know. And so.
And he was your first dog.
Yes, my first dog. Yeah, that is mine because we've had family dogs in the past, but I never looked at them like they're my dog. This one was my dog. It was for my birthday for, I think, 2016 is when I got him. So yeah, he definitely is something else. Training a puppy is a lot of work. I'm never doing it again. Naru's my first and Naru's my last dog.
Having Naru, you know, like, for myself, I discovered that Naru, he can see spirits as well, and he always barks and is quite rather aggressive towards them. When you had Naru, especially as a puppy, like, did he show any signs as well?
No, I had no idea. As a puppy, he did not that I noticed it. Like, he didn't show any signs. It was only until we moved to a different home when he was bigger, and one of my sisters, she can see our sister. Our sister can see ghosts. And she told me there was someone who always stays upstairs. She never comes down to the first floor because we had a first floor and a second floor. And I kind of thought about, like, how come she doesn't come down to the first floor? She goes, maybe, we kind of talked about it and we guessed maybe because Naru's there. Because we didn't want him to go to the first floor because they put new carpets in. And we didn't want to mess it up and have to pay for it. Because we knew we were only going to stay there for so many months. So we wouldn't let Naru go upstairs and just have him in the bottom, on the first floor. And his kennel was in the first floor too. So when he did go to sleep, he'll just sleep on the first floor in the kennel. And yeah, so there were moments where one time I was sitting on the couch, and where I was sitting on the couch, it's like facing the door. There's the door, and then there's the stairs that come down this way. Naru was staring at it, and he got scared, and he kept inching between my legs, and like he was trying to like scooch back and everything, and he just was super anxious. And I had a gut feeling that maybe she was standing at the bottom of the stairs and poking her head out. That's my image of what I think was happening. And he was just like anxious, and he's like, you know, so.
Me, when I first met Naru, you know, there were 2 other dogs. And it was crazy with everybody living in the house and having all the dogs there. Naru has always seemed like he tends to worry about a lot of people. So he has like this anxiety, this ball of anxiety in him. And I remember the first time, like, you know, at first with Naru, he was just such a aloof, always wanting to play. That is the biggest thing about Naru. He loves to play. And one of the funny thing was when we went to Grandma's funeral, she passed away a few years ago. And when I was there, I remember during one of the days of the funeral, I stayed back and I had fallen asleep because I was taking a nap. And I remember as I was napping, Naru, you know, your whole he has attitude thing, he totally does. Okay,
he has attitude.
He's really funny because one of our older sisters doesn't let him on the couch, right? So then as soon as they left us and it was just me and him, immediately he ran onto the couch. Yeah. And I was like, me and him, we both looked at each other. And then I was like, thinking to myself, I don't think you're supposed to be on there. And he looked at me like, are you going to tell me to get off? And then I was like, no, I'm not. And I was like, because, you know, like, I've had pets and I let them on the bed and everything. It's not a deal. So, you know, I was like, whatever. So I go into the guest room and I'm taking a nap. And in this house in particular, I know that there's an entity in the other room. And so, you know, it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't care. It's not by me. So I'm taking a nap. And then I remember I woke up and I couldn't move my body. But then I heard this voice telling me in Hmong, New law, like it's coming. it's coming now. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And then all of a sudden, all you hear is Naru leaping off the couch, barking super aggressively, charging down the long hallway. And he's like, just right into that room. And then finally I like jolted awake, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I was dying there. And then Naru comes into my room, right, looking at me. I was like, you saved me, Naru.
No, his bark is intense. It shakes your whole body. You're like, God dang.
It's so loud and aggressive.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you're not howling anymore. You're just barking.
And I actually recall a time when we went to Sacramento, and I remember when we were leaving the dogs at home. Like, it was unexpected. Our last day from my grandma's funeral, we ended up going to Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we were saying bye to Naru, and we ended up sleeping up there. And that night I had a dream that Naru's spirit was trying to chase after us, and he was looking for us. He was trying to find us, and I had to tell Naru, you need to go back home. So then Naru ended up going back home. But I was like, oh my gosh, this baby, he's so anxious about where are we going. There's no one to protect us. He must go with us.
Yeah. With like Naru spiritually wise, so I had him stay with my sister because I was in Japan for some time, for 3 years. I didn't have the money to send him out there. So I asked my sister if she can hold on to him for 3 years because we were going to be out there for 3 years. And when I was there in Okinawa, I remember I had this dream where I was being taken advantage of by a ghost, and it was in a house, and it's like, I didn't do anything about it. I was just standing there, and they were doing their thing, and I remember looking out the window. I'm in the house, I'm looking out the window, and I see Naru just come out just on the streets. and then it snaps me out of it, and then I'm like taking whatever the thing is off of me. I removed them off of me, and I go outside, and I go up to Naru, and I'm like, Naru, like, and in a way, he like snapped me out of it, because to me, I was just kind of like dazed, and then as soon as I saw him, I recognized who he was, and I went out there, So in a way, like, he even helped me as much as he could on the other end, even though I was really far away. Mm-hmm. I had also another incident where this time I'm back in the States, and Naru's with me. He sleeps right next to me next to my bed. And I remember where I was having a dream of someone doing things to me, and Naru barked really loud, and because his bark is so loud, it shook me up, and I'm like, oh, he saved me.
I know. He saved so many of us. He's such a doofus.
He is.
So, like, in your time in Okinawa, like, what did you have any ghostly experiences there?
Oh, yeah. I'm one who doesn't see spirits or anything. I'm glad I don't. But holy moly, when I was out there in Okinawa is haunted as heck. Mm-hmm. If, like, just a little backstory, Okinawa was like a property of Japan, and then the Okinawans there, they have their own language, and it's an ethnic culture. They have their own language and everything.
It's not Japanese?
No. They have their own, like, native people there.
Can they speak Japanese?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because they're Japanese now, because they're part of the, country of Japan, so they speak Japanese. And when I had coworkers there, they'll tell me, like, only the older people know how to speak Okinawan, right? So with that small island, it's kind of like Hawaii to the U.S. You know how Hawaii's like a great spot military-wise?
And Hawaii had their own queen and everything. Yeah.
So it was similar to that. They had their own kingdom and everything, but they were a hot spot because pretty much a lot of war has happened on that island. So you can only imagine the kind of stuff that lingers on that island. Mm-hmm. So when I was out there, I started seeing things. I was being very haunted Very haunted.
We used to do, because it was during the pandemic, and we did a lot of video calls with one another.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the first time, because you know, like in Japanese scary movies, you always see them being portrayed with like a bluish tinge on their skin, and I never really understood that, and then I saw it, and through the video, and I was like, oh my god, they're real.
Dude, she scared me when that happened. We were on a 3-way call, and I'm just cleaning like cat litter in the bathroom, and then I'm just slowly doing my thing cleaning as I have the phone stand right there, and I'm cleaning, and then she goes, there's something there. And then my other sister goes, shut up, Tassie, don't say there's something near me. And she's like, it's not you. And there's 3 of us. So if it's not her, and Tassie sees something, I thought to myself, I quickly, quietly pick up my phone and walk out. What the heck?
Oh my gosh, it was like crazy.
Do you remember what you saw?
Yeah, it was a woman in blue with like hair like about here. It was black, and she was just standing there just staring. And I was like,
was she staring at you or me?
She was staring. No, not at me. But she was just staring. Like I could see her into her camera. I don't know what she was looking at.
Yeah.
But she was just staring, and I was like, oh my god, like they're real, like they're blue. But to me, I was asking my spirit guides about that, and they said that when they're blue like that, it's vengeful. Yeah, so I'm like, I'm like, I can't do nothing to help you. You in Japan?
Yeah, no, it's crazy because I told Tassie, I think I've seen her before. Because we had this giant, like, plant next to the TV, and I would sleep on the couch sometimes because I'm, like, watching a show, and I just end up falling asleep on the couch. And at the time, my ex, he was off in training, so he was gone for, like, a month and a half, almost 2 months. So it was just me and the cats, you know? And I had 2 cats at the time. And I was just, like, sleeping there, and I remember, like, half awake. This is when things start happening. When I'm in the in-between of, like, I wake up and I'm like tired and I'm like conscious enough to remember what I see, but I'm like really sleepy. That's when I saw her. I saw a woman almost the height of the plant. The plant is like maybe this tall, and she's like standing right there next to the TV, and she kind of looked hunched over a little bit, and she looked like that, you know? And I stared at her a little bit, and I remember, because at this point, I've already experienced a lot of hauntings, and I've talked to Tassie about it. So, I was trying to muster up the anger in me, and like, what are you doing here? Like, I didn't want to show that I was scared, even though I was shitting my pants. But I'm like, trying to like, anger. And then I looked at her, and I'm like, just dogging her, and I'm like, what are you doing here, you know? But, and one time, I remember sleeping on my back on the couch, and I was looking up in the ceiling, and I saw this like really long, curly strand of hair, just like, as if it's like this amount. But it's like curly, right? Just think of that.
Yeah.
And then it was just like lingering right on top of me.
Just playing around with you, messing around.
It was just there. It was just, I just saw that, and I looked at it, and I was like trying to move it out of my face, and it was just in my face, and I'm like, what the heck, you know? But
a lot of people, when they have this kind of fear, or something haunting them, it really does work if you show you're angry, and then that way they tend to leave you alone more. Now, I remember when you were younger, you always did a lot of sleepwalking. Mm-hmm. And do you recall any incidences from when you were sleepwalking?
There was the only time I remember. I was sleeping in bed. Then I woke up and I was on the couch. And the thought that came to my head was, oh, Mom probably picked me up and put me on the couch. But who does that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my only memory.
Yeah, for some reason, I think you are one of the only siblings that I know of that sleptwalked a lot. Mm-hmm. A lot of us, we all talk in our sleep, you know. Yeah. But you know, it's funny because as an adult, I found when I had my shrine down, I found that I would sleepwalk and I would do weird things. Yeah. Like, and I, like one of the things that I developed, you know, you guys already know this, but whenever there's an entity around, I sleep with my eyes open. Like, I go to sleep with my eyes closed, and then I find out that my eyes were open the whole time. Tassie. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I'm like, man, I'm probably really scary to sleep next to. You know, like, I hit people in my sleep, just because, like, I'm seeing things coming. Like, for example, I was sleeping over at one of our sister's houses, and another one of you guys that came from California to visit, and we were all sleeping on this king-size bed. and I saw something crawling on that sister, on her body, and I remember I kept punching her, just punching her, and what woke me up and stopped me was her like.
She's all bruised up like this.
And then I woke up and I was like, "What are you doing?" And then I turned around. And then
Mid punch.
Oh. And I was punching her in her stomach over and over. And then literally, I asked her the next day. I was like, "Man, I shouldn't say anything, you know." Like, so the next day, I was like, "Do you sleep okay? Like, are you in any pain?" I was like, I found myself punching you in your sleep. And she just looked at me like, "What? Why did you do that?" I was like, "I don't know." But you know, like I found when we moved to my brother's fourplex, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would sleepwalk a lot, and literally, you guys, here's the kicker, okay? Because I would have memories of it later on, like
it's slowly coming back.
Yes,
to you.
and I was like, when did I do that? But I would be like, dead asleep, and then literally, I have memories of me opening my eyes and just whipping the blanket off of me.
Okay, let me ask you, when you have these memories, is it in third person, like you're watching yourself?
No, it's me.
I see.
Like right now, like it's really me.
Yeah.
And then I recall I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And I just whip the blanket off of me, and then all of a sudden I'm just up, and then I'm standing in the corner just staring. And here's the kicker:
that's so
my
scary.
brother slept in the other room.
What the
I would be in his room in the corner just watching him. Like just, but here's the kicker. Okay, I sleep in the nude.
The brother.
He has never noticed me, and I didn't even notice I was doing this. Okay? Yeah, because I was like, wait a minute. I was like, why do I feel like I remember standing in the dark? I was like, but I don't go to sleep with clothes on. But I remember many incidences of me just standing, watching over him sleeping, because I knew an entity was going to come.
Oh.
You know, so that I was just standing there like, come, I'll kill you. It was just like the trippiest things. But then like when I lived with my boyfriend, he also expressed a lot of times when I would get up and I would be talking to him, doing full conversations and doing things, but I have no memory of it ever happening.
Yeah. And
it really tripped me out, because then he mentioned it to me in passing one day. He was like, "So what are you always doing up late at night?" Like, and I looked at him. I was like,
I'm
what?
getting my beauty sleeping.
Yeah, I was like, "What do you mean? I'm asleep?" And he was like, "No, you're not." Like, and then I was like, "What makes you think I'm not sleeping?" And he was like, "'Cause you're up and you're talking to me and you're doing things." And I was like,
that wasn't me. That was
what? Yeah. So for me, that was like a very, very like jolting, because I was like, how long have I been doing this? And he was like, it's been like over a month. Like every night you get up and you talk and you are doing things and you're doing things too. And I was like, what do we talk about?
Yeah.
You know, because I was like, that's not me. So, you know, so for me, I will like those incidences with my boyfriend, I don't have memories of me actually doing that.
Yeah.
But then, you know, like I know that when I did do those random sleepwalking, because I was in a very haunted place, you guys. It only happens in very, very haunted places. But that's when those kind of things were happening to me. So you didn't have any memories?
No memories.
Okay, because I remember when we were talking about it as a family, our older brother, he said that he's actually seen you on several occasions sleepwalking, and we had to research it back then. Like, what do we do when someone's sleepwalking? And apparently it says you're not supposed to wake them up. You're supposed to just calmly lead them back to where they need to go, and they need to wake up naturally on their own. Now, from a shaman perspective, usually when you have spirits that are very lost, and your spirit is very lost, and it tends to interact with other spirits. It tends to go off with other spirits.
Is that why I was sleepwalking?
I would say so, because usually when a shaman typically looks into somebody who's sleepwalking like that, we could see other spirits guiding them and telling them to do things. And you are agreeing to do it, but you don't really have that that reality in you when it's happening.
Mhm.
You know, like in my instances, my spirit guides are leading me to do these things, but I don't have that consciousness to
Mhm.
understand exactly what I'm doing. I'm just doing it without questioning it.
Mhm.
So, you know, like I can see that being very, very terrifying for a lot of people, especially if other people, you know, like they also have children. Like children do the creepiest things. I was a creepy child, you know. So like, you know, like I always joke with our other sister, you know, if I ever have kids, I'm gonna make you watch them, so you, because then I know they're probably gonna be really creepy.
Say the most unhinged things.
Yeah. Rock alone at night in the room by yourself.
I see dead people.
I bet you, her sister Molly will just like come in there and see them and just slowly walk back out.
In the middle of doing something, you're like, I'm not trying to get involved.
Yeah, I already know. Like, I can just see, like, you know, if I ever had children, they would just tell you totally unhinged things you don't need to know. Like, you know, why does that man keep touching you next to you? And you be like,
Oh, hell no.
What man?
I'm not watching your kids. I'm like, I think Auntie Molly's not doing anything. Let's go to her place.
I was like, I'll just drop them off and leave. So, if I recall correctly,
Mhm.
when you were in Japan, that's actually when you met what is now infamously known as the Green Goblin in our family. What do you recall about your time in Okinawa when it started?
I was just haunted by, I was just haunted a lot. I kept seeing spider webs, and it would haunt me a lot when I was sleeping at night, and I almost went crazy because it always happened during the witching hour, between midnight to 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. For some reason, I'll always wake up, and I'm like, what the heck? And I'll see spider webs everywhere, fur in my face, and I'm like, I have no idea what this is, you know? And I'm always doing this when I'm sleeping. I'm like, what the heck is that, you know? And I had dreams of a man coming to me in different forms, different versions of men, and would try to court me. He'll always try to take me away. And I almost go with him. But I remember the last second, I'm like, at the time, I was with my ex, and I'll say, no, wait, I'm with my ex. I can't go, you know? And so then I always say no, you know? But there were many, many instances where he did that. And I didn't know I had anything attached to me until I came back to the States, and we went to go eat. I think, I forgot where we went to go eat. Gyukaku. We went to Gyukaku. And we were walking, and then that's when you told me something's on me, and you were staring at it. And I'm like, okay. And then you did tell me you probably have to, you know, do a ceremony to get rid of it. And at the time you weren't practicing. I'm like, I don't know any other shamans. Yeah.
Now, when did you first see the Green Goblin? Because you had moved here.
Yes. So when
US.
I came back to the States, I flew to California because that's where I left. I was living in California, and then I left to Japan, and then I came back to California. And my sister, she has a dog, and I have my dog now that I'm back. And I'm like, okay, well, we have 2 dogs. We can't fly to Minnesota because we were planning on moving to Minnesota. So then we were just going to drive. So we did the drive from California all the way to Minnesota, and it was just us in her car with the 2 dogs in the back. And they probably thought, oh, yeah, we're going to go to the dog park. This dog park is 24 hours. A 24-hour ride. And when we were driving, we drove pretty far, and we did one pit stop for the night, and we were in Colorado. And luckily, this hotel allowed us to have our dogs, and so we were in the hotel room, and we were just sleeping. We had the lights on and everything. I remember that night when I was sleeping, I felt very anxious. And I didn't know why I was anxious. And I'm like, for some reason, I couldn't go to sleep. And so eventually, when I did fall asleep, my body's twitching. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And at this point, I kind of knew if my body is twitching like that, something's wrong. It's kind of like almost an animalistic kind of instinct, where if you're super anxious, something's not right, and you have to be alert. So I was sleeping, and I just kept twitching my body, and then I woke up in the middle of the night, and luckily the lights were on. And I see my sister sleeping on next to me, because we were sleeping on the queen size. And I saw a green neon sign right above her, it says open, and it's neon, but it's lime green. And I saw that, and I don't know why I saw that, but then it started to materialize and turn like a mist, and it was going on top, right above my sister. And so at this point, I'm like trying to do this, like cover her face or like remove the mist off her face.
Were you like heavily, deeply asleep and like very tired? And
I was really tired. It was in that. No, I was able to move my hand though,
okay,
but it's like because I came to. But I'm like still like that's why I say it's like that in between that sweet spot where I'm like awake but still kind of groggy and I'm like what the heck and I'm going like this. It wasn't sleep paralysis, but it seemed like it was trying to do something to my sister, our sister. So I was doing this. I was like, what the heck? And then she was just like wondering what I was doing. Like, why are you waving your hand like that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I saw something.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's what I saw, but I didn't see it in like humanoid form. It was just an object that maybe my brain could only make sense of it that way.
And then it was like weeks later, if not even like a month or so later, you guys were living there. And then that's when we came over and we took a nap.
Because we went to eat Golden Corral. we had food coma.
So I remember we were all together hanging out. And then all of a sudden everyone just knocked out. But our older brother, he was still up. And we were in the living room and he was on his actual computer. And all of us, we were just knocked out. The three of us sisters were just knocked out. And then all of a sudden, that's when I had the dream of the Green Goblin, which we ended up doing a skit on. So make sure you guys check that out if you haven't already. But we did the whole skit of the Green Goblin coming out. And then that's when it dawned on me, like, oh my God, you really need to get this taken care of. But I wasn't practicing.
Right.
So it was like you had to find a shaman, and it was during the peak of the pandemic still. It was just in 2021, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in 2021. And it was interesting because when you were recalling the story and telling us, you kept like emphasizing this weird color. And you were like, yeah, it turned into this weird color and it went into a different entity, right? And then I looked at you and I said, was the color like a neon green? And then it like hit you, you were like, yeah, it was. And I'm like, I've seen it.
Yeah, it's so crazy, you guys, like these kind of things. Oh yeah. And for the record, you guys, we were able to get rid of the Green Goblin.
Because she opened her shrine. I'm like, please! Knocking on the door, please! Begging!
You know, it's funny because so many of my family members, they're always like, get in line! Like, I had a line of people when I opened up my shrine again. I had a line of people who were waiting for me to do ceremonies for them.
I was one of them. And then some of the things that she asked me that I needed for my ceremony, a silky chicken. My God, it was hard to find one. I had to look up on Facebook like I'm looking for a single woman in the area. Like, are there silky chickens near me?
So many people are. It's so different now after the pandemic.
Yeah.
You know, like when people don't do as many ceremonies the way they used to, but. Back then, when I had my shrine up, silky chickens were a dime a dozen that you could get. Yeah. But now, I had no idea it was so difficult to find.
It was hard. I could not find one. And if there was one, it's like an hour away, and they were little baby chicks. And I'm like, I just need one adult.
Well, because, like, you know, people raise silky chickens as pets now.
Yeah. I'm like, I just need one.
Now, one of the funny things that I always do to GJ, and I think like she's caught on now why I always ask her this, but I do this thing in my family where I don't just outright tell you why I'm asking you something, but a lot of my siblings are aware of what I do, so they're like, why are you asking me this? Because then literally one day I was talking to our sister Molly, and I was like, I just looked at her, who are you talking to? And then she freaks out, and I'm like, oh, never mind. And she was like, no, what do you mean, who am I talking to? And then she was like, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not talking to any guys, because, you know, she's single.
Ready to mingle.
And then okay, and then I was like, because she was like, I'm not talking to any guys, you know, right now. And then I was like, no, you're talking to someone. I can feel them. And I was like, oh, you know, like, but they're not like a real human being. And then Molly was like, this is worse. Like, she wouldn't let me out of her car. So anyways, like with GJ, frequently, you know, like whenever you know, like they like to host guests and have people sleep over, etc. So then I would be like, so how you been sleeping?
Yeah. And I'm like, fine. And then she's like, have you dreamt about anything? I'm like, well, actually. So at the time, I have a friend from Puerto Rico, and he's good friends with my ex, and so we were trying to convince him to come out here to move to Minnesota. So he stayed with us for a little bit until he can situate himself and then also find his own place. When he was sleeping at our place and living with us for a while, I've been having dreams of like people are trying to enter my home, and it's like zombies. Like that's how my brain like was able to make sense of it. It's like zombies. People are coming into the house, and I'm like boarding it up. I'm like, oh my god, these
It's like
ants.
overcooked. It's
Yeah.
like overcooked. You gotta board up the
Yeah, I have to
entries.
board or more like the zombies in Call of Duty. Like
Oh.
they're coming, I gotta shoot them, you know. So I'm like boarding up the doors and stuff, and they keep trying to come in, and I'm like, what is like, why are people trying to come into my home? And I've had multiple instances, not back to back, but I'll have dreams of like something's going on and someone's in my space, and I'm like, what? Why are people trying to enter my home? And I told Tassie about that. Like, yeah, I've had a few dreams now. Like, people keep trying to enter my home, and I don't know what it is, and it's freaking me out, you know, because I know they don't belong here. And then she says,
yeah, I tell her that a lot of times, you know, even if you're not a practicing shaman, right? A lot of times when other people come into your space, you know, like traditionally for Hmong people, we have sikas up, which protects us from our ancestors and everything. But even if you don't, in her case, your own spirit will try to warn you that there are foreign spirits trying to come in, you know. And we're not saying you can't ever have guests over, but just expect that is maybe normal for you to have those kind of dreams, that this may end up happening, that you're going to be disturbed in your sleep. And everybody has different like everybody has different spirits. So wherever you go, you tend to bring it with you. And then especially if you don't get along with yours, you will keep having these weird kind of dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely was kind of gnarly and scary. And when she said that, and I'm like, I really don't like this person. I'm so kidding.
No. Well, thank you, GJ, so much for coming on as a guest to my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It was like for me, I just like it. This has been something in the works for so long,
mm-hmm.
and thank you to my family. You guys can't see the production crew in the background, but my family, man, they are truly amazing. Like they come and they are looking up all the technology, setting up all the lights, seeing if the background is fine and everything. And a funny story about my backgrounds is that back then when I was doing mukbangs, people always thought my background was a green screen.
It's real, guys.
No, and I was like, it's just my junk, because back then, because I lived in a one-bedroom apartment, and then I moved to a studio, and I didn't have anywhere to put my stuff, so I just shoved everything in the back. And I'm like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
And then everybody thought it was a green screen, and I was like, if I had a green screen, it would not be of my junk back then. It would be something like, I'd be like
the
cherry blossoms, yeah, the beach, something like much nicer than this. But so a lot of people always thought my backgrounds were fake, so it was really weird. But anyways, thank you, and until next time, you guys.